I think there is a non-zero chance we are back on live again. Of course, now I'm not hearing anybody from Discord, so I'm in panic mode myself.
We're here.
It's
Okay.
back. Yeah, I wasn't ready to proclaim victory until I saw something on my screen, and now I do, so now I am ready. Well, welcome back, Trenton. You have to call your ISP up and give him a piece of your mind and say, you let Nitz down. He was on the stream, and then it just died, and my friendship with him was strained. But
So
I'm
we do have
bigger.
a crown in Sea Shrine.
Crown is
Yeah,
interesting. It can be useful, but not necessarily required. And also, I was more worried about my friendship with Nora on this one, okay? But thank you, Nora, for being as amazing as he is. One of the hardest working people on Twitch, honestly. There's
Yeah,
Adamant,
that's it.
which is also worth noting that is now significantly more important with the NPC shuffle. We've already found Excalibur, which tells you that can't be what you get for Adamant.
Yeah, do we know if the Smith and or Astos are incentivized? Because if they're incentivized, it's a big deal. If they're not, what you've really done is found one treasure chest inside of another treasure chest. And you're just like,
Astos is incentivized.
all right. So
Smith
We
is
may
not.
also get to see another interesting quirk of NPC Shuffle coming up here then. When Edge gets out of Sea Shrine and he turns in with Astos, Astos will actually tell him what he has before the fight, allowing him to reset out if he does not like what he sees.
or just like dusting that son of a gun in one shot because Astos is pathetic and Edge's party is pretty rigged. But you know, you got choices.
Also, part of my delay in getting everything reset was making sure, or at least attempting to make sure, that I had all the runners in the correct locations. I think I do, and I apologize if there's any error.
Oh, they're snapping in good for me.
I mean, I'm worried this Forzando is show and show is Joker kind of thing. Edge is at least in the right place. That part I'm sure of.
They all look correct to me. I think
Okay.
you lined it up correctly.
Restreaming is an interesting animal to get into. I advise everybody to do it at least once with the life experience. Hey, Edge takes out Kraken with the Quad X, so there's an orb for him. Can anyone give me orb updates on the other runners? Did I miss any?
Sforzando definitely defeated Carrie.
As did Show. I did not see Joker kill any fiends, but he may have while we were down.
Okay, that is the one thing we're trying to keep track of. It's quite a bit harder to keep track of key items. Are there any guides, tips, or tricks for restreaming? Talk to Nora. He'll be happy to assist you. That's his favorite thing, is training new restreamers.
Dedicate your life to doing the most thankless work behind the scenes, purely for the enjoyment of others. Expect no gratitude, and you'll be ready to rock as a restreamer. I jest because every one of us that has worked with these people have nothing but the most respect for them, but they do disappear behind the scenes a lot, and their accomplishments often go unnoticed. So it's thankless work, but we love our restreamers.
So Show's working through the waterfall. The other interesting thing that happens with this NPC shuffle is your routing choices, because whereas waterfall was an automatic play before, knowing you had to get the cube, maybe you put that off because of how out of the way it is, unless you have narrowed down that it's very likely a key item is here, or I don't really have an or. You might just avoid it because of how difficult it is to get to, but Nightmares have Thunder, so they're doing a number on Sforzando's party.
They also have Crack. They are truly living up to their name.
They also have a very high base evade, and when you roll stats up They have a tendency to be pretty high on their evade. I don't know the exact numbers, but that's just an observation thing. And this party is stunned too, so I mean, that is a real nightmare encounter.
On the flip side,
the Joker picking up his sword. Yeah. And I did see a bridge over the canal, so that's good to see that flag turned on. Astos has the ruby, and Edge is going to take it.
Well, actually, I don't know if that's true. Well, having the ruby can line up your items if you don't like their current positioning, so there can be reasons even beyond their actual value why you would take them.
Trenton, do you think he's gonna go feed that Titan?
No.
0%?
Just a flat.
I mean, the one reason you might do that is if you aren't entirely sure of the logic as to if the Titan could hand you something else, maybe you turn in the ruby to him, just to see. Because if you have any doubt, check it. There's no reason not to.
Now, the way to handle this, I think, and it's going to get more popular in future races and so on, is just to turn on the Titan's tunnel. It just nudges him over so he blocks off the treasure chests and also the passage from the east to west side. So then you all of a sudden need the ruby to get those 4 chests no matter what, and the item has value again. Even though it's, strictly speaking, harder or slower than with it disabled, it's just a little more interesting that it actually does something.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody's done any particular number crunching, and I won't attempt to, because if there's one thing I've learned, it's don't do math while you're live on Twitch. Bad things will happen. But before we've calculated out, there was about a 4% chance of ruby being required, approximately, in any given seed, and that might be because the floater was behind it, or something else to that effect, like Mystic Key. And I would assume the requirement is probably not terribly different, but probably just a little bit higher when you do this option.
Question from chat, is Titan standing in the T intersection? So in the vanilla game, there is actually no actual T intersection. I had to edit the map and move the Titan in order to create that effect. So, but no, in this set of flags, he's in the vanilla location, and they were able to pass him by coming in the back door via the airship.
So we have Show visiting the mermaids. I did not see if Edge popped in to visit the mermaids or not, so I have not seen these items yet.
Sea Shrine is another option for being incentivized with these flags, but they are in fact not turned on for this race, so there's no incentive, but that doesn't mean that an item can't be there. It just doesn't have an increased likelihood to be there.
Incentivization is such a tricky thing because it just, favors placements and makes things slightly less random. With the dungeons you have to go to anyway, the Fiend dungeons, it does feel unnecessary because you're liable to come here to kill the Kraken at some point. So if you want to check the chests, go for it. That's kind of the idea. You don't need an extra draw. But because, like you said earlier, Trenton, the more options, the more interesting people can try things. They can discover for themselves what they like. That's why it's all in there.
Yeah, and you can just create very unique experiences. I touched on, we've got the next round of the randomizer league coming up at midnight tonight. Well, there the battle is not to find the key items to defeat the game. By the way, the bottle and Aegis Shield, those are 2 big finds in this Sea Shrine. But when you need the casting items like Defense Sword, Mage Staff, having something like that in the incentive pool, although those aren't options, but the black shirt, white shirt are, those could be far more valuable in NPC Shuffle than they would in a normal Defeat Chaos run. In a specialized rules setting instead of a normal Defeat Chaos run. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, the bottle's an interesting one. If the fairy is incentivized, it's a nice big treasure. If the fairy is unincentivized, she's just going to give you a random item. But seeing the bottle and the Oxyale in the inventory at the same time, that's a uniquely FFR NPC shuffle experience.
The fairy is incentivized. Would you like me to just run through that list?
I think it is a good idea to recap the incentive list, specifically which NPCs are incentivized.
Okay, so our incentivized NPCs are the king, who only gave us a cabin, the princess, who gave us the TNT, Vicky the pirate, who gave us the canoe, Zadra the sage, who gave us... Somebody's gonna have to remind me on that one.
Tail.
Okay.
The tail.
The robot... What he had?
He had the rod.
Yes, the rod, which is required. Okay, caravan is incentivized. Although I'm not sure how that works because we found
So that was the
floater
floater.
elsewhere.
Yeah, so the caravan item is incentivized, but then it gets shuffled as well by the item shop shuffle.
Okay, so that's just saying it's going to be the store item.
Yeah, yep.
Okay. Fair enough. Astos is incentivized tonight. I mean,
he
I have
gives
no idea
the
who that
ruby.
is or where he might be hiding, but somewhere out there.
Well, speak to the king of the Northwest Castle and we'll hunt him down.
Narek was incentivized, so TNT gave us something as well. The fairy is incentivized, and Leafin is incentivized, which means you will need the slab, because currently the slab is how you talk to Dr. Un and get the language. What's not incentivized tonight is the Smith, the Elf Prince, or Matoya.
Alright. Where was the ship SRD Platypus? It was an early item, I can tell you that much.
It was in Matoya's cave in one of the treasure boxes.
Yeah, it was a folding ship. One of the things you'll get used to is finding some rather unusual items that you thought were bigger than a bread box that you could find in a treasure chest, like a ship or a canal. One doesn't usually pick up a canal, and one does not simply find a canal in a treasure box, but now you can.
I didn't see what was in that vampire's treasure box. Did we see that?
That was just a pro cape.
Okay, not incentivized, but it is an option to incentivize that treasure chest. Our runners did not tonight, but again, just one of the possibilities is you can do that treasure chest.
The folding one-use disposable houses were always in treasure boxes, and that's just part of the canon. But to find a ship, that's big.
Bigger than a house, you might say.
As far as our incentive dungeons tonight, the Marsh Cave was incentivized, which gave us the loot. Ice Cave was incentivized, which gave us Moss Immune. Ordeals was incentivized. I don't remember what that was. And then non-incentivized tonight was the Corneria Treasury, where you would get TNT, the Earth Cave, which is the Vampire Treasure Chest, the Temple of Fiends, which is that the key-locked room? And the Volcano, which is the Red Dragon.
It looks like the Sea Shrine key locked room might have been incentivized. It had the black shirt in it. So if it wasn't incentivized, it just randomly got that.
Black shirt was not incentivized tonight, so that was random.
Oh, wow. Neat.
But
So what was
is
the
that the
Temple of
room that
Fiends
is incentivized with that flag, the key locked?
Yep, that's the Sea Shrine chest. Yep.
Okay, and for anyone who may not be familiar with that from the vanilla game, there is that one room, and it's the reverse C shape when you're going to the mermaid side of the Sea Shrine. That one is locked by the Mystic Key, so it puts some importance on having the key for when you're here.
Yeah, it's extremely curious that that door, as well as one of the bottom doors in the Temple of Fiends, revisited or locked with the Mystic Key. No one knows why the developers did that, because you always have the Mystic Key by the time you get to those locations, but they did. And because it creates an interesting wrinkle in FFR, we can't change it now. It's just too much too curious that it was there in the vanilla game, so you gotta leave it.
Well, it's I've always said it's interesting. You'll never know how much you didn't know about a game till you start playing it in randomizer. I did know about the Sea Shrine one just because at one point I was curious to go checking doors everywhere, and I had found that just in my casual playthroughs. But the Temple of Fiends I didn't know, but there's several places where you can tell Nasir was very aware that sequence breaking in games was a thing. So there were these checks that were put in to force you to do certain things. Like the whole idea of Sadra giving you the rod. Well, you can't do that unless you've beaten the vampire to get the ruby. But lo and behold, we found out with the randomizer that if you got to him without the ruby somehow, he still won't give you the rod unless you've gotten the randomizer. But that was one of the early flags Introper came up with, was to allow for an early item from Sadra. Did I summarize that reasonably well? As
Close
Edge
enough for me.
counts Lich. I think that's orb number 3 for him.
Yeah, that is for sure.
Good. It's nice to be right about something every once in a while.
Not too much. Don't let it get to your...
Adam has to go around in the Sharknado room. That's pretty rewarding, although not necessarily required, but could be valuable.
Yeah, we know that Astos is a bit of a bust.
We're seeing Edge head towards the ferry, which I believe you said is incentivized, and he does have the bottle, so that should be something that leads us to the chime. It could be the slab that then has to get chained to go to Leafin to get this chime, but one way or another, we need the chime to continue.
Translating the slab to go to Lefane to get the chime. Is this even randomized, bro?
Are these NPCs even shuffled?
Are these NPCs even shuffled?
Hey, we gotta come up with different epithets to rant. Well, meanwhile, we saw gold bracelets for sale very cheap. This is the maximum range for prices. It's up to 500%, but that also means down to 20%, is it?
And that's probably what you're looking at with those $5,000 gold bracelets. That's what I'm talking about. Price is right there. And he's going to kit out his whole team without even a moment's hesitation. It's all over that.
So, Killen is pointing out in chat that Edge is making really fast progress, but he has not opted to grind a lot of levels. So, while Sho has a 42 black belt, Edge does not. So, if we see a difficult Temple of Fiends, that could certainly slow Edge down later on.
Yeah, there's a huge, huge difficulty spike in Temple of Fiends Revisited. Because all of a sudden, with the exception of the Fiends, you can use magic to 1 or 2 shot most enemies, the highest powered spells. That really starts to just burn out in the Temple of Fiends Revisited. The health of enemies increases, their attack power increases dramatically, and if you show up there with like a low level party, you just get battered and bruised. So he's going to have to do a little bit of grinding, I think, at some point, but exactly how much isn't clear, and he may well take this because of the lead he's built up.
But I just noticed he did not check the ferry, it looks like, because I don't think he visited the mermaids to get the bottle. So now he's digging through Marsh Cave.
Over on Sforzando Scream, we got a pretty good-looking gold and silver Kraken there. That's classy. He's like, he ran out of money, though, while he was like chroming himself and only did the top half, but looks pretty good.
Well, he is the most dapper of the Fiends, you of course know.
Yeah, that red tunic, yeah. Like, dude's got style. I mean, he's dead, but he had style.
Only a temporary setback.
Yeah, we may see him again.
If RPGs teach us anything, it's that death is only a temporary setback. And Sho is able to get his orb of water restored. Brilliant pointing out in chat, Edge did come here earlier. He found out the loot was in the incentive chest, which is the one guarded by wizards. And that is the loot. So we did see that earlier, and Edge wiped out after that when he was checking other chests. And he may complete his search now, or he may just go for the loot. Because after all, you have to find the loot before you can get the warrant. Props to anyone who gets that.
Man, the Carmen Sandiego thing's starting to get tired. That's almost as bad as Agama Fax, but yeah. The loot, the warrant, it doesn't get old.
Okay. Slab for the ferry, so Sforzando is just able to pick that up, and then that's going to give him access to another...
the longest fetch quest ever.
Well, another incentive location is what I was going for. I was going to put a positive spin on it here.
Yes, Sforzando is definitely on the trail of Garland Sandiego. I think he's got to get his slab translated. That's one of the things that was just, I think, more trouble than it was worth to shuffle, right, Tardipan? I think you looked at changing the, like, who provides you the late finish language, but it was just too much of a pain.
Yeah, it just didn't really fit with the other things that were being shuffled. Same thing with the class change. Just the idea of having not a dragon do the class change seems a little wrong. I don't know. Maybe someday we'll randomize those as well.
And
the dragon can teach you. The dragon can teach you late finish, and Dr. Un can promote you.
Well, he is a doctor, so you can trust him.
Do you think the loot is covered in moss being near the marsh cave? Or was it well kept? How sanitary is this musical instrument that we just found in a box in the bottom of the most poisonous cave in the world?
Well, at least it's a lute and not like a flute. That would be pretty nasty.
It's also been entertaining to see the runners take largely different routes, although a couple of them have been on similar tracks lately.
Yeah, it's never ceases to amaze me how people can take such completely different routes, and they diverge very quickly if you go to different places and get different incentive items in the NPC shuffle, and then somehow both kill Kraken at exactly the same time, and then completely divert again and go off and do completely different adventures. And I've also learned that I was very spoiled covering the races up to now, because once we start having NPC shuffle races on the regular, I am not going to have any idea what's going on.
I mean, I think we're going to end up, much like this, just tracking orbs and then something like key item count. Because we won't even necessarily know how close somebody is. We might know they only need one more item. As we find the opal bracelet here, which is the best piece of armor that a black belt is going to wield.
Yeah, it's a good experience for us, too, on the other side of the commentary booth than just showing the game. It's also showing how it's going to be covered, right? And it's interesting to note that we're going to have to do some things differently to really make this more, like, palatable. Like, there's so much going on, and how we present it is going to have to evolve, too.
That is true. Now,
So-
of course, tonight we're also kind of wandering off the beaten path. We've got two devs in here, so it's a great chance for me to kind of pick your brains on behalf of the community and talk about the various features that we're seeing as we get an understanding of what these flags are, what you can do with them, and how the experience is going to change with this randomizer.
Yeah, the current
I
league
did
is set up-
notice that Edge has the cube. I didn't see where the cube got picked up, but at least one of the runners has the cube.
Okay, so that will leave him with Chime, I believe, will be his last go mode item.
Yeah, the chest in the marsh cave that the loot was in was humid controlled. It was actually found in an ornate humidor, along with a box of Cuban cigars. Well-preserved musical instrument, to be sure.
That's interesting. Joker might be doing a solo grind here at the Zombie Dragon location. It's one of kind of those last resort grind locations because it's a little higher risk and not necessarily as rewarding as some of the other places you can be. But you can still get very good levels with it, and with that power gauntlet, 32 is probably going to be enough for most people. As Show translates the slab, so he's probably going to be the first to show us what the supposedly advanced civilization is holding on to.
We do also see Show unnecessarily feeding the ruby.
Well, at least today he got a good meal.
Yeah, but poor Titan, man. He gets so neglected. If you're also joining us, maybe even watching Final Fantasy Randomizer for the first time or one of the first few times, not something on your usual agenda, you might be wondering why so much of this, in addition to the NPC shuffle, looks a lot different. I see 3 of the 4 runners on stream are using the modern Battlefield Fun % feature. It just sort of changes the look of the battles when you're in them to what basically every sequel looked like for the next 10 years. And there's also a feature to change background colors, which is why Edge Stream's menus are fuchsia. There's a lot of little community tweaks going on to just the general look and feel of the game. There's another runner named Terlin who output a set of sprite tweaks to gender bend all the characters and release it to ROM hacking, and most of those are compatible with Final Fantasy Randomizer. So depending on the source file you put in, you can randomize just about anything and create a different look and feel for the game, but still have exactly the same mechanics. And we invite that kind of stuff. A lot of people like to play and have fun with how the game looks and plays.
Edge came back to the mermaids to find what items he didn't have already, and now it looks like he's taking a moment to perhaps figure out where he's able to go next. Or maybe he was counting how many warp charges he had to figure out if he had enough. I don't know. Could be either one.
I think
Could
he
be
was
both.
debating whether or not to clear the rest of the chests in the mermaid floor. If he does his math correctly, he should know that the Bado will eventually lead to the chime, which is the last thing he needs for go mode. But you have to kind of make sure you remember which things are incentivized and whether that bottle is going to get you somewhere or not.
And he may have done a quick check of the flags just to see if that room here in Sea Shrine was incentivized. Because, hey, that was 2 hours ago that they were deciding what the flags were going to be. Things can be forgotten.
That color probably is magenta. That's like a more standard mixture of red and blue. There's a runner of this game named Fuchsia Fantasy, and that name just jumped in my head when I was looking at the color.
Show finds the ribbon. I think he was... That's interesting. I think he checked the incentive chest first to see if it was going to be something he wanted to keep. And then he went and got the rest of the treasure instead of resetting. And Fairy will hand over the slab to Edge, which he's going to hope eventually leads to the chime.
That's not something you usually expect in NPC Shuffle, to be hoping for a vanilla chime, but that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, I'm
It's funny how...
not sure we have any other options at this point, because I think we've seen everywhere else. We have covered a lot of ground between these runners, but we've seen the depths of the Earth Cave, I do believe, already. We've definitely seen Ice Cave, Volcano. We've gone on the hunt for the crown-locked chests. And I think done every available NPC turn-in so far. So I think we are down to Vanilla Chime.
I feel like this was a pretty great seed up until the hunt for the chime. That was the one that, certainly for Edge, threw him off. He had to double dip into Sea Shrine to get the quest item to lead to the chime. So that's gotta be a little frustrating for him.
Edge not a fan of killing the Tyros. He lets that one go home, back to its family. the wife and the little tyros.
We've actually got a pretty good sync going between Show and Edge now, racing to get the chime first.
And I gotta say, I do like what Joker is doing. He's had a rough start to this and not been able to get any of the orbs so far. So it makes perfect sense that you would go with a higher level black belt and give yourself a chance to do something that way by just executing faster. Edge, meanwhile, has picked up the chime, so has Show. They'll be able to go to the Mirage Tower now, and they're going to be able to complete the game.
Nitz, what mode would you say that we're in?
Well,
Put him on the spot. He wasn't ready.
I think we're in no-show mode because he hasn't even finished off the Earth Cave yet, has he? But I guess he's got the rod. And even though he's got a long road in front of him, he, like Edge, are both in go mode.
Are you okay? Do you need medical help?
I kind of coughed a little bit, that I had to like power through it. And then I'm like, I don't think that worked out well.
Edge not messing with the Ankylos because after all they're 80% shell and nobody wants to deal with that.
And the other 20% is just spaces between the shells.
Yes.
You know what Modi said.
Alright, meanwhile, Sforzando is about to get here to fight Lich. You talk about an NPC to which death is just a temporary setback. I mean, Lich just embodies that. I wonder which treasure Show might be looking for at this point. I guess maybe the white shirt, just because there's such a high likelihood for it?
So somebody in chat pointed out that Show does not have the cube, unlike Edge.
Oh.
So he is still searching, and that's kind of not a good thing for him if he's going to end up searching all of Mirage and Sky Palace.
Well, he
because
can't
we
get to
know that
Sky
the cube
without
is
the cube.
not there. Oh yeah,
Good
good
news
point.
is-
All of Mirage.
Yeah.
That is only 2 floors, so it's quick to check. In which case, I'd actually agree with that play in this situation. I'm not sure what he has to go back to, but you're going to check these 2 floors faster, and if you've got cube, you're just going to be able to power on. Or power through.
Yeah, meanwhile.
Whatever power you want to power.
So Show is in no-show mode. I was lied to. Misled. Bamboozled. Hoodwinked. Meanwhile, Edge is steaming ahead, and he's going to be not stopping for anything until he gets to Tiamat, I think.
Chat saying that cube is in Deep Earth, which is somewhere Show has not gone yet. So, I still agree with this play. I still think it was the right play overall, because it's probably as many or more chests, but faster to check.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and he was right there at the chime turn-in, so there's no reason not to check those 2 floors before going to Earth.
Alright, so Sforzando giving us a look at the incentivized March Cave chests, but I don't think there was anything down there. We had a look before. And
There's
Edge...
the crystal. Oh, that
is
could
about
take
ready.
Show on the wrong path.
Not too far, though. I believe we said that Montoya is not incentivized, but even if he does stop by there, that shouldn't take him too long on the way to Earth Cave.
Yeah, it's real quick with the airship, but he'll turn in the crystal, which makes, again, perfect sense based on what he's doing, but from here it should be pretty easy to go to the Earth Cave after Montoya's. Meanwhile, it looks like we're going War Mech-less tonight, unfortunately. Question in chat if that was a Red Hydra death touch. I don't think so. He's had his black belt down the whole time, hasn't he?
Yeah, he was low health. He just got whiplashed.
Sforzando able to translate the slab, and then he's going to be able to go get the chime. So progress-wise, it looks like Edge is in the lead right now with Sforzando in second place.
Yeah, Show was looking good until we realized he didn't have the cube, and now he's got to clear the Earth Cave, and he's going to have to be meticulous until he finds the the cube as well. So, oh, it looks like he's going to go look in Marsh instead.
Yeah,
I don't
so
see
that's
what his
another
looks have to
unfortunate
do
turn.
with any of this, or why they would change just because he doesn't hold a cube. I mean, how superficial are you? He wasn't ready for that one. Anyways, Edge is working on this fight against Tiamat.
No, I'm just picking up my shattered ego all over the floor here.
Oh, there's damage poison coming to play here, but when you've got Excalibur and Masamune, you're not too worried about much before the final boss rush, that is. That's going to be the 4th orb restored for Edge, and he's going to be able to go to Temple of Fiends Revisited. Doesn't mean he has to, but he could if he wants to.
He's been doing the old level up as you go all the time, so if he's just going to stick with that strategy, he can hit it up. He's got some pretty good gear, pretty survivable party. He's got lots of charges of life too on his red wizard now. And,
Do we know
that
he
might
has
carry him?
fast? Oh, the knight having life too is just absolutely fantastic. It's the most durable member of your party, able to restore your party. That is a nice place to be.
That is one of the best post-promotion unlocked magic spells I think that you could have. Ninjas with Nuke is pretty sweet. Ninjas with Faster Saber is great. But a Knight with Life too, that's got to take the cake.
So we have about a 138 entering of TOFR.
And this is probably a good time to just sort of recap with what all is going on. This, of course, is a marathon of randomizers here on Randomania, because what else would we do for a marathon? This is the Final Fantasy I randomizer NPC Shuffle. This is currently considered the beta version of the randomizer, although we should see some of this coming to the game soon. But anyone is able to access this by doing, what is it, beta.finalfantasyrandomizer.com? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You can try these out for yourself if you'd like. We already saw another Final Fantasy randomizer race, well, not race, but exhibition take place. Will Bloodworth did his solo thief run. That happened earlier in the marathon. And then this one
How did
really
that
shows
go?
off the depths of the
did you see that
NPC shuffle.
Was he successful? What were the results of that?
He did complete the run.
With a thief run, I think
time.
that's good enough.
Yeah, completing it is really victory. All right. Edge working his way down. He ran into some trouble with some gas dragons. They waylaid his black belt, but his black belt's very low level. He probably doesn't care that much.
No, I think you'd take levels. I mean, ideally you'd get the black belt to like level 21 along the way to Kraken, just so that it can contribute some damage, but you're not going to worry about it too much at this point. Especially not depending on his support magic. He's got the Power Gauntlet, which is extremely helpful. If he's got fast as well, then I don't think he's too worried. Will had Kraken 2 and Tiamat 2 run away. Okay, we're going to need that on the highlight reel of the marathon. Whenever somebody develops a highlight reel for YouTube, that needs to be included. It actually would almost be easier to happen in a solo character run than most other runs, because part of the formula is going to be based on your lead character's level, and I imagine Will entered Temple of Fiends Revisited already at level 50. Some wizard vamps for Sforzando as Edge is approaching the great showdown with the Lich. Cobras have crack. Well, that's the second thing to have it, isn't it?
I've seen at least 3 things have crack.
Okay, that would make sense, because what we like to refer to as the Medusa script will be on 3 different enemies. So if something gets put in the Medusa script, that gets shuffled to 3 different enemies, so you'll see it 3 times. So if you're rooting for something extra trolly, you would root for Nuke to be on the spell list of the Medusa script, and for that to get shuffled to a couple places. Edge is past Lich too. Like I said earlier, you'll never know how much you don't know about a game until you start playing it with Randomizer.
Yeah, he's really built up a lead here at the end. And looks like he's cruising to the finish. The fire floor doesn't usually have much of a challenge. There's nothing unrunnable here. Or, pardon me, except for the fires.
Plenty of Agamas if you needed extra experience, but nobody does at this point. It just kind of feels bad inherently to look at 2 to 4 Agamas and think, where was this when I needed it? Hey, they had Squint. I don't think we noticed that earlier.
We have a Warmech sighting.
Nice. Come on, Sforzando, do it. He's gonna try it. Now there's 3 reasons, never math on Twitch, to fight Warmech. 1 is for the bragging rights. 2 is he's worth a great pile of experience if you beat him. And 3, he is one of 6 monsters on what I like to call the boss list. So everything from those 6 is shuffled between them, and that includes Chaos, Warmech, and the Fiends Revisited. So the more turns you have against Warmech, the more you start to see what was here versus what's not. And when we don't see a big spell like Nuke or the abilities of Nuclear, that starts to tell you there's more nastiness in the bosses at Temple of Fiends Revisited.
And with a barrage of fades, Sforzando takes down his Warmech, and everybody alive gains a couple levels, so it pays off. He gives out a ton of EXP.
One might even say a great big pile. One might even have said that 30 seconds ago.
I was reiterating. Jeez, I was trying to back you up. Alright, forget it.
I don't trust you at my back. You're holding sharp objects.
Well, the 1s are pretty sharp, but the 0s are rounded.
Ba-dum-bum. I was tempted to make that binary joke about 1-0 people in the world. Those that understand binary, those that don't.
Yeah, it doesn't really work that well out loud.
It doesn't speak well.
No, it does not. Either that or you just don't know how to tell them. I don't know.
Well, you're welcome to take your try at it, sir.
No, that joke literally does not tell well. The whole point is based on written representation. We're getting a little too nerdy, even for a developer night on Final Fantasy Randomizer NPC Shuffle Showcase. This is fun.
Here we go. This is one of the first really big tests for Edge. This is Kraken 2. He is one of the hardest hitting enemies in the game, if not the. And how fast you can kill him really makes a big difference. Doing the support spells on that mouse immune, and then also doing the white shirt to increase your invasion. Solid game plan from Edge.
Yeah, if you're wondering the specifics of all of those buffs, So the white shirt casts Invis 2 and gives your entire party 40 extra evade, and it stacks with itself. You can keep casting it. The power bonk casts Savor, which is roughly twice as effective as Temper, but can only be cast on the caster, so you have to use the power gauntlet item to cast it on yourself. It adds to your attack and accuracy substantially. And so does Temper, just a little bit less. Both of those stack with each other. And the final spell is Fast, which gives you an additional attack in the sort of attack pool. It lets you swing one more time. And it does not stack. So only one Fast is necessary. If you have all of those spells and he does, you can turn your knight into a real killing machine.
And Kraken was really high HP tonight, but thankfully didn't ever get started with his attacking. So Edge is through this one. Because this has a lower stat range, he's still going to be kind of a beast even with a reduced attack. But with up to 250%, well, how should I explain this? His increase in strength with the randomizer is capped. I think that also means his decrease works out to be as well. His change basically is decreased because otherwise he could basically break the damage cap if such a thing is possible. Or at least max. Kraken 2 is not to be trifled with, is what I'm trying to tell people.
So it looks like Sforzando went straight from, was it Tiamat to Temple Fiends Revisited, not even stopping to revive his black belt.
I don't know what level he has his black belt. He might have kept the black belt down for most of this seed once he saw the magic.
Oh, and Sho has found the cube.
Yeah, that cost him a lot of time. He's really falling off the pace now, obviously, but he is finally in go mode. Apparently I can't say that without, like, stuttering, so I'm just gonna give up. That's it. He's in that mode where you go.
Alright, here is Edge against the final boss, Chaos. And we've not seen any of the stuff that makes runners worry. So, there is Nuke, the spell. There's also 4 Nuclears, the ability, that we've not seen yet. His party here, though, reasonably durable, especially the Knight and the Red Mage. So they're going to be able to live through a round of that.
And he's getting hits off on Chaos, so we're not seeing like a max evade Chaos or anything like that.
This percentage increase, you can't get to max evade. You can still be high, but I think that's one of the reasons why they stopped at 250% on the stats, is to make sure they weren't facing any max evade final bosses. Which, by the way, one of the subtleties, you talked about the changes that happen over time in the randomizer, is a more recent change in the life of it was to lower that maximum evade, so that you're still able to hit this final boss instead of it being something like a 3 in 256 chance. Now it's 6 in 256, I think. There's Nuclear. So
yeah,
this is Warmech's
just
ability.
in time to see Nuclear.
That's Warmech's ability. There's 4 of them out there, but it won't matter. GG Edge. He is our winner. I was going to say he hasn't done, but then I realized it's probably me not being in the SRL room anymore.
And
Because of that
Edge
whole
takes the
internet.
showcase rate. Time of an hour 50-ish. So the early seed that we thought was going to be just a total gift turns out to be pretty easy for Edge, especially owing to the fact that he made that early Earth Cave play to find Slab. And the rest of the plot items weren't too far out of the way. Able to take the gains he got there and ride it to victory. So congratulations, and we'll Follow now Sforzando, who's hot on his heels for second place on stream.
149.32 for Edge.
And I wouldn't count Show out of the race for second place either. He's going to be going through Sky Palace very quickly here. He does not need to check anything, and he has a 42 black belt or master at this point. We'll see if he's able to catch up. I don't think the Fiends were hard enough to slow Sforzando down, but we'll see.
So we've gone over to Sforzando's audio now. Edge had been supplier of audio tonight.
If this is your first Final Fantasy Randomizer experience and you want to learn more, you're intrigued, and you're thinking to yourself, how do I get involved? How do I give this game a taste? The first step is FinalFantasyRandomizer.com. You can join our Discord. You can hang out with us there. We have a great, helpful community for getting new players started. We'll drop a link to that in the Twitch chat. There's also a link to that on FinalFantasyRandomizer.com. And if you're interested, this game has been made so much more user-friendly and modernized than the original vanilla game. Things like running, being able to buy multiple items at a time, really make it more playable in this day and age. So I encourage anyone who thinks they're interested to give it a shot, because you're going to have a lot of fun. Joining us in chat is tonight's champion, Edgeworth. Edge, how we doing?
Doing all right. How are you guys doing tonight?
You don't want to know.
We're doing
well,
okay,
those two are doing okay.
The stream had a bit of a headache. It had to go take a break, but the stream came back and the party resumed. What do you think was the most out there thing for you today? What was the most NPC shuffled surprise?
So I wasn't aware that bottle could show up in chests, so having to go back to C was kind of a rude surprise for me. But I just figured, well, whatever it is, it's going to be in those chests that I skipped, so I might as well just go back and get those. It turned out to be the right move. I'm pretty glad that I realized that that was all part of one long chain, otherwise I would have wasted another good 2 minutes opening all of the chests in Mermaids.
Yeah, the bottle threw you for a little bit of a loop, but you did really well finding the slab in Earth. And in fact, going to Earth at all was sort of the play that I think won you a lot of time versus the people who are following you.
The cube, you mean?
Yes, I mean the cube in Earth. Pardon me.
Yeah, I think finding it in that order was pretty significant. I probably would have dove Mirage Tower looking for the cube before Earth if I had, gone in the other order.
That's almost exactly what happened to Show. You were neck and neck for a bit there, but we didn't realize right away that he didn't have the cube, so he was clearing out the bottom of Mirage Tower at the same time you were just kind of jogging through it, and that's when you opened up the lead you had. I mean, he hadn't finished Earth Cave at all, so you had a lead already, but it cost him some even more time against you.
So Edge, with the differences of NPC shuffle, how easy or difficult is it to change your mindset to think of what you actually need?
It's a lot more difficult to the point where before this even started, I took out pen and paper and wrote down all of the items that were incentivized and where they could be, just to kind of map that out. It's fairly easy with the standard randomizer settings to kind of keep all of that floating in your head, but once you get into NPC shuffle levels of randomization, I have a really hard time keeping track.
Yeah, I think as a community we're going to have to sort of settle on what are the commonly done things, because if you were in a league or a tournament setting where the different incentivizations got flipped on and off willy-nilly from one stage to the next, I feel like it could be a bit of a headache. But having said that, assuming we do settle down on, a couple of common choices, Do you feel the NPC shuffle adds opportunities for skillful play, or is it just randomness for randomness sake? How do you feel about that?
It certainly, if you have like check all of the boxes, I feel it turns into randomness for randomness sake. But with some of the tweaks that I've been playing with, have certain settings on and off. Some of the new settings that are available in the beta version, I feel it's getting closer to skillful play. I really did like the way the items shook out this seed, and the fact that the long quest chain was sort of short-circuited by not having incentivized the Elf Prince and Matoya. So yeah, I think it's getting there, and it will get there. It's just a matter of more testing from the community, figure these things out. But I think overall NPC shuffles in net positive.
Were there any questions you thought of tonight that you might want to ask the developers, as 2 of them are currently held hostage?
Is there any thought to having more than one of the incentive items being purchasable?
I had actually just started thinking about that recently as another option to throw a second shop item as an incentive. I'm a little bit worried about doing that right now because there's just a flood of so many new options. But I think down the road that would be a neat idea. Another idea kind of related to that somebody mentioned was randomizing the shop items. So possibly walking into the first shop and finding Masamune for sale, or Excalibur or something that you normally would never see in a shop.
Yeah, I do like the idea of that. That sounds pretty interesting, and definitely makes conserving your gold a lot more important in the early game.
I had another idea about making it so you could buy some of the quest items just on demand, like maybe the guy, the Oasis guy, just straight up sold the chime, the cube, a rod. So, like, if it was out of nowhere for like $250,000, you could just buy one or something. I don't know if that idea needs to be cooked a little bit, but I think it could play well with, okay, so these are the ones I found randomly. I could either spend a bunch of time rummaging everywhere for the chime slime, or I could just go buy myself a chime from the dude. And I think that might balance too.
So
I guess maybe a
we
little-
have Sho is working his way through the water floor here, about to get to the most dapper of the fiends, who was nice. It played very nicely with you, Edge. He kept with the spell list and nothing particularly bad.
Well, I mean, he punched out Larry and then cast fast, and I was not happy about that fast cast, but managed to get him down after that.
I think it's going to be
Joker
a
talking
pretty
to the
tight
mermaids,
race.
as he's apt to do.
We have Sho just 2 fiends behind now.
Sforzando about to get this final battle started. He shifts over the Masamune. I like that strategy. Did you shift over Masamune, Edge? Or do it earlier?
I did that. I think it was after the carry fight.
Okay. Yeah, at that point, Red Mage is going to be more in the support magic role, so makes a lot of sense to go ahead and put the best sword on your best attacker. How about this color palette we're seeing from Chaos, who has Zap, apparently?
Oh, that's unpleasant.
People
Where was
survive,
the?
though.
Where was
Oh,
the?
that's like
third...
Bowser Castle. Sorry.
I was just wondering where the third ribbon was, if anyone found it.
Which ones did you find?
The incentive 1 and shoot, I can't remember where the other one was.
So the one was Ordeal.
Yeah, I got that one.
Well, if anybody remembers where the other 2 is, that'll help narrow it down. But... Hey, Chaos did have Nuke, and we know he's got a nuclear too, so...
Yeah, I was really afraid of that.
Well, we gotta look at Warmac, courtesy Sforzando, so we didn't see anything from Warmac. Just attack. We didn't see... We saw weak spells from him. We saw the level 2 elementals.
Oh, geez, that's rough.
We're gonna have a double chaos here, but for how long?
Wheels are fast coming off for Sforzando. He's got a Cure Force shot, though. No, not gonna happen.
Oh, wow. Show making very quick work of chaos.
Wow, so they come from behind. And that's the difference in the level of the black belt and building it up.
That's exactly what you guys were talking about. If I had to hazard a guess, I would say that you've covered one of these races before, Trenton.
So the snipe on that one.
Looks like we have a double death animation chaos. That's how close they were.
That's pretty awesome. The game never ceases to amaze me. You can randomize it. You can take all the NPCs. You can randomize that. You can have 2 players zooming around the world in different directions at different times that come back and kill chaos within, like, the death animation of each other. They both had 28 resets, and oh no, okay, that's the same video cut over. That would have been really something.
Yeah, apparently we're not gonna be able to do game audio from here on.
Well, can you sing for us?
I can get the OST soundtrack up.
The answer to that is no.
Well, I'd have to actually think of a song first, and then that's...
Hard pass. Joining us is Sforzando, who just finished up in the bottom left corner. Sforzando, you finished behind Show by like half a second. The half of the chaos death animation, but GG on a very close 3rd place.
I mean, story of my life, right?
It was ridiculously close, but I mean, we're just playing for buttons, so it's not too big of a deal for you tonight. Tell me, how's your first big-time broadcast NPC Shuffle race? What do you remember about it?
I went to Marsh way too early. I think that was part of my issue. It made me think about doubling back when I had the key, because for some reason I couldn't remember if the Lefane slab turn-in was incentivized or not. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this stupid chime has to be in Keylock Marsh after I've already been there. And so I had a little bit of a setback checking that for nothing.
And Sho Fukumachi has just joined us in chat as well. Congratulations, Sho, on your tight but narrow 2nd place finish ahead of Sforzando, who took 3rd. What will you remember about your first NPC Shuffle broadcast race?
Well, I definitely wasted a lot of time, like checking things I probably didn't need to, like picking up the crystal and turning that in, and going back into Marsh Cave after I got the loot. So, but I mean, it was good. I mean, nothing too crazy. I didn't see anything. Magic was kind of terrible. Especially since I ran a very mage-heavy party.
Yeah, the best black magic was really scarce. The life 2 at level 1 was pretty helpful, though. Red mage castable, too.
Yeah, that was pretty nice.
And
I think it's fair to...
as well.
Yeah, night castable. I think it's fair to say that even the best Final Fantasy randomizer players still have some to learn and some to grow into the new NPC shuffle, and I look forward to watching that happen. And I think all you guys, the first thing you said when you showed up after your races was, man, I made this mistake and I did that wrong and I wasn't necessarily sure about this flag. So I really look forward to everybody growing and getting better at this, because it was already an exciting race and I know that they're just going to get even better. So let's talk about the just the different routes that you guys went on, because I know that the canoe came really early and then the floater was for sale. So what were you thinking right after you got the canoe and then the floater show?
Well, I went immediately to go. Well, I thought I had the TNT, but I didn't. And so I went to go turn that in. I was like, wait a minute, I don't have the TNT. But turning in that got me the power bomb. Not that I used it, but then I went to go immediately turn in the floater, because I remember I had the canoe and the floater. So and that kind of like threw me in for a loop. I was like, well, I can go pretty much anywhere now. So I wanted to level up, because I was like level 6, I think, at that point. And so I needed to get some levels. So I did some grinding. Luckily, fires were really easy. Having ice too, I was like, wow, that seemed like the logical place to at least level up a little bit. And and then I went and did the incentivized stuff.
Sforzando, same question, because I know that you guys finished within seconds of each other, but your routes were completely different. So how did you approach the early canoe, early floater?
When I bought the floater, I left myself with just about enough money to save, and that was it. And I knew the route. I started the route, and then I thought, no, this trek's going to be too perilous. So I ran to Matoya's, and thankfully Matoya's had a ton of money. I was able to buy some canoes to make the trek more bearable, because those hydras hit ridiculously hard on the way. And then from there, I guess my mind jumped to Marsh, just because I felt like, okay, Marsh is the new incentivized, and I guess I should have ran and got some levels or something first, because I went in at like, I don't know, 8 or less or something like that, and I got it handed to me pretty good in there.
Well, we're going to start to wrap this up. So instead of our usual final questions, I'm going to ask for each of you, did you have any questions you wanted to ask our dev team? We've got 2 of them held hostage here. Any questions that may have come up during this run?
Boy, that's tricky. You're really putting them on the spot.
I know, I asked an unusual question. They're not used to this. Hi, Joker, by the way.
Yeah, I didn't want to speak out of turn. Sorry about that. I just wanted to give some time to everyone else. But yeah, no, that... Yeah. It's obvious that I was playing through the better ones. I was more here to have some fun, so didn't mean to have to put on here, but I also want to kind of keep going with the marathon. But you guys are awesome. Keep it up. Ice Cave's horrible. I need to get better.
Dev team question. When are we going to get a different sprite for Chaos?
I'll leave that one for Nitz. Nitz, take it away.
There's developers and there's artists, and we are not artists. So if you find someone that can redraw you a new Chaos, that's actually really easy to add. It doesn't even require changes. But if you do think of something, you guys all know where to find me, and so does everybody else. I have made my second home, the Final Fantasy I Randomizer Discord, and I've pitched a tent that will last until the end of the day, and then I'll have to pitch another tent tomorrow in the developer balance channel. So that's where you ask me questions and give Tartapan a hard time, and that's where people complain when they think that their seeds don't work. And invariably, they've overlooked something, because he's worked hard to build that algorithm so that it actually generates beatable games. And it's a pleasure for us to watch people play them, and I hope that anyone watching this stream is inspired to give this a shot, chooses to do so.
Yeah, huge props to Tartapan. He and I worked kind of a bit on the testing and stuff like that, and I've absolutely loved the NPC shuffle sort of update to the game. It's been one of my favorite things since I've started playing.
Yeah, it's definitely really fun. I enjoy it, even though sometimes it can get a little fetch questy, but it adds a new dimension to the randomizer.
We all got to see a lot of the chaos that could soon be coming to a Final Fantasy I randomizer near you. Tartapan, any final thoughts you'd like to share?
No, just I guess thanks to everyone that's done testing and help on the NPC shuffle feature. There's been a lot of great feedback on the Discord, on the Development Balance channel, some of it technical advice on how to do the programming, and some of it just feedback on like what bugs or like what features people want to see. It's all fantastic, and I really appreciate the community supporting and bringing it all together.
Nitz, anything you'd like to share?
Oh, just a pleasure to see this thing hit the big time and see the NPC Shuffle's first big broadcast. So I know it's only going to get better from here, and it's just one day at a time for us. It's a lot of fun.
Well, Czar snuck in here, so I'm not sure if he has something he wants to add.
That's on the world record, buddy.
I want Xfer. That is all.
Czar, by the way, is one of our admins for Final Fantasy Randomizer who has helped keep a lot of things together, including the League, which, by the way, is coming up in about an hour. We'll be on Randomania 2, and then be excited to rejoin the action here.
Yeah, if you didn't get enough of this randomizer tonight at 9:01 p.m. Pacific, 12:01 Eastern, we're doing the first race of the Stage 7 League, which is the Useful Thief, and we have to collect 4 armors or 4 weapons that are spellcasting and have them on the thief. So it should be a lot of fun. Just come check it out, and then obviously continue watching the Randomania Marathon.
All right, so I will wrap this up by saying a big thank you to Randomania for having us as part of the marathon. Thank you to all of you who spent part of your evening with us. Hope we gave you a good amount of entertainment along the way. Appreciate each and every one of you who shared your evening with us. Thank you, Nora, who does a lot of work behind the scenes, to Game Boy, and all of Randomania for giving us a lot of great content here on Twitch. Our dev team, 2 of them joined me tonight with Nitz and Terrapin. Also Introper, who didn't join us on the mic, but still has done so much for this randomizer and for the community. You're all greatly appreciated. With that, I am going to hand things back over to Randomania and wish everybody a good night.